There we go. We're back. Hi guys, welcome to Late Night with Lucas Too Blue. I'm joined with
Duncan Miller,
CCO,
Chief Content Officer here at Lucas Too Blue.
We did a pretty major document that we had to write earlier. Oh no.
Co-host, producer,
co-producer, co-host, you name it. Well, topic of tonight's show is, we promised the boys and we lied because we thought we were going to start in September. Crazy stuff was happening. We were moving. As you can see, we're in a new space, and yeah, it was crazy.
And Jeff Bezos changed the boys' schedule on us, so it comes out every week. So we're not done yet.
So we were first gonna do season 1 of the boys, and then we're like, oh, season 2's so close. Let's just watch season 2. And then season 2 didn't come out all at once. It just kind of came out. I'm gonna shift this. There we go. Now we're both in frame. Haha, look at us cuties. But apologies, people. There we go. Right there? Yes, that's what I want. As you can see, we're repping.
Yeah, new merch.
This is team exclusive merch with potential merch for us coming later. But yeah, we're doing it. We're here, we're live, and we're doing Bill and Ted. We decided we were going to do a franchise frenzy on Bill and Ted. This year, semester, we're going to be starting a new format, but this is not the new format. This is the old format. We're not going to do a crazy opening extravaganza like we've done with the previous semesters because, 1, copyright issues, and 2, last time we did a current event show, it kind of backfired on us. Like a little too much.
I'm not saying 2020 was our fault.
No.
But we also didn't have 2020 pegged this way.
So. Nope.
So, nobody did, but that's okay.
Anywho, so we're finally in the same studio together, which I'm really excited about. And, yeah, we're going to be talking about Bill and Ted and the excellent, bogus, adventure journey. I don't know what you want to call it. Face the Music. It's this crazy trilogy that's super dated, but then they finally released a sequel this year of all years to release a sequel. So let's get into it, shall we? So Duncan, you are our origins guy, so why don't you explain the origins of Bill and Ted?
Most people may have seen Bill and Ted before. Depending on what generation you're from, you could be part of Generation X, which is supposedly the intended audience for this movies. We could still debate that for hours, but that's sort of who grew up with this movie, potentially. So the directors, or not the director, but the writers actually of this movie, Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon, who both went on to do various other movies, but this in particular was really one of their first few real roles, and they took the Bill and Ted characters basically from a stand-up skit they used to do in college. So like us, they were college roommates, and they ended up taking what they did in college, that became the script for Bill and Ted. Mm-hmm. It had various revisions, but they wrote most of it in 4 days, and they just wrote it on legal paper, and that sort of ballooned into what we see now as the movie. But basically, you could boil this down to time travel movie starring 2 wannabe rocker dudes before they were cool. So Alex Winter, Keanu Reeves, both successful in Hollywood after this and also because of this, but not so much immediately, not so much in the 80s and 90s, although they kind of gradually went on to their peak, and now Keanu has all these evolutions where he can be the woe dude and he can be the cool dude, but we're gonna get into
the woe complex later.
What an amazing actor Keanu is.
Yeah, who would have thought?
And for those of you who weren't really around in 1989, I know I wasn't.
Nor was I.
at the time, I don't think the world was ready for Bill and Ted. There were people out there to go see it, but it's quite possible that they were sort of ahead of the wave in some ways. The number one song for reference in 1989 was Billy Joel's "We Didn't Start the Fire," so that tells you where things were at. It was very like looking back on the 80s, like seeing where we've been in this century. The 1980s were a tumultuous decade, people, much like we're seeing now. So that it was a very different time. We weren't really quite into the emo or grunge phase yet of music, so things were in flux, and it's pretty evident in the dialogue of Bill and Ted. There's a lot of words that they use. Some of them landed, some of them didn't. Some of them are really horrible.
We won't say them on stream for obvious reasons.
And some of that vernacular, some of those words that they use, like excellent and dude, right? We say those in conversation today, but those weren't really part of normal conversations back then. This was back at the time when the high five was invented. So, that recent of a time, only 30 or 40 years ago, a lot of these cultural norms were sort of developed, and that part of it is a really interesting slice into sort of culture and in history, just in general. But yeah, this movie, basically, there's a lot of ways where it couldn't have gotten made.
It almost did.
Yeah,
we almost didn't get Keanu.
You would have been some other guy. Would have been like John Krasinski as John Wick or something. Just imagine that. That could be your John Wick, right?
Or what was it? Who were the other two people leading for auditions for Neo? Was it Nick Cage and Will Smith?
Ooh, that would have been... Yeah. Will Smith would have been...
Perhaps we'll discuss that if we do a eventual Matrix. We don't have anything planned, but... potentially if we get Matrix 4 in the next 2 years, like we're supposed to. But probably not. Anywho. Do you have anything else?
So... Bill and Ted doesn't have plot structure, even though it's a time travel movie.
No structure.
I try to define it in the time travel rules. I'll say it at some point. I'll go through it, but it's not for like the people who are trying to nitpick every moment and every little thing. You just gotta kind of go with it.
Yeah.
And we didn't really have a lot to go off of. Lucas hadn't seen these before, so.
I had seen bits and pieces of Excellent Adventure, and that was it. I hadn't seen anything of Bogus Journey. I had never finished Excellent Adventure, and I was very clueless to what this actually was. So, like, I knew there was time travel. I knew that there was a history report, but that was it. Like, I didn't know anything about the other weird complexities about the telephone booth and whatnot. Yeah.
So that's a good point. The telephone booth. The guys that wrote this movie, they didn't watch Doctor Who. They didn't know what they were doing when they made the time-traveling device a telephone booth.
That makes sense to me because how many Americans were watching British television?
Yeah, not in the 80s.
In the
right?
80s.
We think about it now, like, you can watch all kinds of Doctor Who on Netflix or streaming it's on.
Because Star Trek would have been the only thing, but that was more of an American thing at the time. Yeah.
So that's going to be on TV.
No one was. I mean, I don't know if BBC was really very present. I mean, I'd have to ask my parents, but I really doubt people were watching international television in the 80s. Like my dad said, there was only like 7 channels or something like that. Compared to the multitude of variety and options we have now. For those people who still watch cable.
Yep. It's no longer just buttons and knobs.
Nope.
But they have downsized recently. So it's interesting. Perhaps we'll get to that when we talk about the state of entertainment, the state of content.
Yeah, potentially. Anything else?
The last thing I'm going to put in this realm here,
Origins.
this first box that we have is that the writers who wrote this had an idea for Bill and Ted, but it wasn't their initial idea they went with. They originally had them as sort of younger, more like early high school guys who were basically the guys that would get picked on, and it seemed like they had this idea before they casted the two stars, because those guys don't really fit into that role the way we know them as actors and the way their characters develop. So I think once they were cast in the roles, Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves were allowed to kind of incorporate some of their own takes on the character into it, and that's how we got today. And I will say at the outset here, the fact that the characters are so similar is actually, there's kind of a funny like press thing is there is documented evidence of Keanu Reeves mistaking which character he played in the movie by accident. He'll be like, it was Bill and Ted, and we know he's Ted. And it's just kind of funny, like the way the characters are written in sort of this like satirical way of like that sort of skater or like whoa dude or like take it easy bruh culture, right? Like it's pretty easy to accidentally mix them up and be like, what guy did I play again? So I thought that was kind of funny, and went along with the sort of theme of this.
That makes sense, though, honestly, considering their two parts of how in the first movie they're pretty similar in terms of character structure. The only defining traits is like their costume,
their physical features
and hairstyle. You know, Ted's got the very curly blonde hair, and
you mean Bill?
Bill, excuse me. Bill has the very curly blonde hair, and Ted has the long black hair that's straight. You know, that's the only like major defining trait. I mean, if you were to watch Bill and Ted blind, you would probably not be able to tell the difference in the first movie.
You would just have to learn the voices or something.
Right.
You wouldn't. Yeah. So that part of it is interesting, and also the clothes they wear. They're very, like, it almost seems like you look at it now like, was that really in style? But in some ways it was, in some ways it wasn't. So I feel like all the fashion people would look at this and be like, oh, that's super cool. I should implement that into my style. Alex Winter with the half shirt.
Yeah, the
I don't know if that's coming back.
I admired. I was like, wait, they had crop tops in the 80s?
That was the cool
for
thing.
For men?
That was what athletes wore.
I was like, hold the freaking phone for a second, man. I want this fashion to come back. Let's rock it, boys. Come on. I mean, like, Alex Winter just slayed that entire outfit in so many ways, and I appreciated it.
All the colors going on. It
was pretty great. Should we get into some overall themes? Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you kind of talked about some of yours. I'll kind of jump off of that with mine. I'm gonna to close Origins. I'm gonna do our little kind of soundboard here. Hopefully, you can hear it.
Excellent.
There you go. So that'll be our transition when we move on from everything. Oh god, that's gonna get annoying so fast.
I mean, it's the same way in the movie. It's the same way.
But so some overall things that I just kind of, for the entire series, I have written down is the stories are very messy. At least the first two in particular, extremely dated, as we said, with some of the language, and it's just kind of like, it's very 80s, very 90s for both films. You know, they were working on cheap budgets, you know. I don't know. I mean, the second one actually seems like it had a bit of a budget for a comedy film, you know what I mean? But who knows? Anyways. Like I said, it gives us, like you said, and also it gave us Keanu, so we have to thank Bill and Ted, because otherwise we would not have John Wick, nor Neo, nor who else am I thinking of? Constantine. We wouldn't have him in Rush, or no, Speed, excuse me. We wouldn't have him in Point Break, you know.
Some good quarantine movies right there.
Those are some really solid, you know, action films. Overall, mostly harmless. Like, it's not super offensive in any way, except for that one word we said won't repeat, but we'll definitely mention.
Dated.
And the other thing I was going to say, it's inconsistent with what it's supposed to be. Like, the first movie especially, I think, is just the most inconsistent thing. In fact, I came out of it kind of feeling like, I was like, I didn't love that experience. I was like, I'm a firm believer that I love like 80s cinema and I usually eat all that stuff up, but this was not the case with these films. I was pretty critical. Duncan, you can attest to it.
Yeah, we felt, it's kind of like when you eat a big meal or something.
Yes.
You're like, I thought that's what I wanted, but I'm not really sure yet. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
you know.
100%.
But you know, reflection, you get to think back on what did I take away from that,
Right.
And I think
I
that's
don't
what we
feel
can
like
do.
I took much away from it. It ends. They don't save the world or anything. They just do a history report and it's just whatever. Anyways, we'll get into it. And then I would say Bill and Ted are, throughout the entire series, constantly letdowns to most of the people around them. Specifically Bill's dad and Ted's dad. And occasionally the princesses, right?
Yeah.
Are they the babes or the princesses? Are they both?
I believe that's they use those interchangeably.
Okay.
They are princesses.
Yes. Yeah. Well, should we get into Excellent Adventure?
Yeah.
Or should we get into
Excellent!
Adventure? Okay, I'm done for now. I think that's a good point. So, Duncan, do you want to talk about Excellent Adventure at all?
Yeah, so I think I'll go over the time travel rules first, so we kind of know where we stand.
I want to hear what you wrote about this.
Yeah. So the movie starts with a utopian society in the year like 66. So it's like
Yes.
hundreds of years beyond. George Carlin plays a guy named Rufus, who's like this guy dressed in all gray who looks like he's from Star Trek or something. And he time travels in a phone booth, which I didn't know phone booths could time travel until this point. But apparently in this world they can. They've retrofitted phone booths to be time travel. So that's good use for them. I think we should do that. That'd be
Question,
smart.
why does the architecture in the future look like an Apple store?
Maybe that's a hint on who dominates the next whatever number of years. I don't know.
Continue.
You would if this room is any indication on who's dominating next, it's probably that. So the time travel rules they're pretty like simple, like I would call them like consistent if I could.
That was the only thing that I would say is consistent.
It is like self-consistent. When
Yes.
somebody shows up from the future, you're going to sort of see how that unfolded. And it was not like you went through without that ever happening. It was always going to happen.
Right.
And they kind of do a little bit of a time travel trope where they kind of like make fun of like, well, how are we going to set this up? What do you think we did? But like most of the time, like we knew that things were gonna work out in the end because of the way we see things in the beginning, coming face to face with Bill and Ted from the future, which looks exactly the same as Bill and Ted in the present. They just act a little differently,
Right.
Which I think that's pretty impressive just from a filmmaking standpoint. Is getting these guys on split screen and doing alternate takes and flipping around, like that's pretty impressive for this time. I know Back to the Future came out before this, and they did other like doubles and other things like that. So similar, although Bill and Ted they changed a lot of their stuff to not be like Back to the Future because they had just seen that and they're like, oh, this is kind of similar. We want to make sure we're doing something that's different. And I think they did that, but Back to the Future has what I would call anything goes time travel rules, where you're allowed to change certain things and timelines are allowed to go through, and there's multiple timelines, and it opens up the world for more sort of implications. Whereas in Excellent Adventure, it's kind of one big loop.
Correct.
That sends you on your way.
Right.
So yeah, Bill and Ted, they're not very good at history, and so this is their way of taking something useful out of history, and literally they do take useful characters from history.
Yes.
Which I think it's impressive how they got all those people in a phone booth.
Yeah.
I don't know what they did. They might have had like a rectangular phone booth.
Yeah.
Like trickery, and then they flip it on its side.
That's one. But there is the scene in Excellent Adventure where they literally they show that it is crammed and it does not nothing makes sense, and they're like it breaks at one point. So at least it's consistent with the time machine rules.
Yeah, that's about it.
Which is funny. Yeah. I mean, did you have anything else you wanted to say about this?
I like their depiction of the utopian future. It's diverse. They have very interesting fashion choices. I don't know if we're ever going to get there in terms of fashion, but it is an idealistic view of what could happen. We could have great music, and we can all have a seat at the table. So that's something to look forward to. Hopefully,
yeah. And they did predict a black world leader. I don't know if you noticed that what did they have, like the head council?
It was like
or whatever.
Like the intellectuals. They were like a group of people, but clearly
the top seated
Rufus
person
was not the main guy.
No, he was like the agent
guy
for the council.
Yeah, he's just a guy who goes back and forth between DC and wherever.
He was kind of a nice version of a time cop, essentially.
Yeah, he could be like a time cop.
His job was to make sure time stays in order, so he had to set Bill and Ted on their path. So, yeah. Is that all?
That's okay. That's a pretty good stopping point.
Yeah, so anyways, I'm going to jump in and say this movie is easily the worst one of the three. So much dude, which is hilarious. And then the other thing, I would say this for both Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey, is they don't know where they are, whether they are PG, PG-13, or R. I would say Bogus Journey falls more into the R area than but I'm saying that for the 80s, how they rated movies in the 80s is a little bit different how they do it now. I would say if this released nowadays, it would definitely be more in the PG-13 line, but they don't really know where they are, and then they say things that I'm like, that probably wouldn't fly, but maybe it flew at that time. I'm not really sure. So there's that.
The biggest sort of issue with that sort of is that they didn't have PG-13 as a precedent when they were developing the movie. It was out. It was a thing because it was Last new. Crusade was one of the first films that I know of existence that's in the PG-13 format. Yeah, and we talked about this on the Indiana Jones, but they weren't really ready to implement it like we do now, where we know everything's going to be PG-13 if it falls into a certain category. And I think that is sort of the result of, or what we saw is the result of that sort of rating system restructuring. Right, and you could also argue that you could argue that PG-13 now is kind of more what PG used to be technically. PG and G are almost interchangeable with the movies they're on now. Like, when was the last time you knew of a PG movie that you saw versus G? Don't know. I feel like it would have to be like a kids movie or something. Yeah, like but I feel like both of them are kind of fill the mold. It basically dumbs down to, could you play this in front of a baby or not, essentially. It's like how intellectually strong are you? That's basically what it comes down to. And most of the time those movies are just insane marketing pushes. Right. Marketing to kids. Right. Good job. Good job. Yeah, anyways, talking on that, like I said, like we both said, it owns its dumb time travel rules. I really appreciate at the end, there's a scene where they say things that they're gonna do. It's like at the climax of the film. They say we should go to the future and leave things for us, and
instead of having to actually go to the future, it's just already there, like their future selves already did it kind of thing, which makes sense because you see future Bill and Ted meet past Bill and Ted, and then they redo that whole scene again for a second time, you know. So it totally, it's whack, but it works because they are consistent within this own universe.
The audience is sort of in on the joke, and they can kind of poke fun at the self-consistent time travel logic, which they're gonna blow up in the next movie anyways.
Yeah. The one thing I would say is that I wish more movies would do that stupid trope, and I'm surprised movies haven't. I mean, I guess movies nowadays are trying to be a little bit more realistic.
Yeah,
like the last major time travel movie I watched was not time loop, time travel would have been Avengers Endgame.
Ooh, okay.
And I'm trying to think, like they had very consistent rules, but they didn't quite follow, but kind of followed them, sort of thing.
So is Looper a time loop movie or a time travel movie?
That's a time travel movie because they send someone into the future. You know what I mean? And they send someone into the past. Whereas Palm Springs is a time loop film.
Part of that smaller
because it keeps going, repeating itself. There's a cycle, whereas Looper, there's no cycle. You can go back and forth. You know what I mean? Anywho. So yeah, I would say that's kind of an interesting thing, and I wish more time travel things would use that. Like, oh, what if we did this, but we did do it, kind of thing. Like I think that was kind of hysterical, and I think it works really well in this, you know, ridiculous, acidine, you know, series. What did we say? If they were going to make another Bill and Ted, it would have to be something with asinine in the title, which would make perfect sense. Anywho,
just think of Hank Hill when you say that.
Yeah.
We've been watching King of the Hill.
We've been watching so much King of the Hill since we've moved.
Surprisingly relevant nowadays.
Yeah. Anywho, should we jump into Bogus Journey?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to do the transition.
Let's get bogus.
Yeah. So, I'll kind of start this one off is... Bogus Journey is still messy, but it's better, I guess.
If you're looking at it from like a movie critique, like what am I seeing on the screen? How technical is that to pull off?
Yeah.
If you're really weighting your averages there, yes.
So in this film, the production value is way better. They have really cool like Jim Henson. Anthropomorphic, what is it? Not anthropomorphic, that's the wrong word. Animatronic and puppetry in this film. They've got a really cool high saturation colored scenes in Act 2 specifically. The Hell and Heaven sequence are like my favorite thing from this film. And there's like he said with the body doubles, there's only one moment where I actually noticed Keanu's stunt double in the frame, and that's because there's only one moment where you see Bill and Ted behind each other. You know, so they had to do a stunt double because, you know, doing that kind of action wouldn't work. Whereas for the rest of the film, when you see Bill and Ted in the same frame, it's split screen, and Bill is behind Ted is behind Bill, kind of thing. So it makes sense in that regard. I was gonna say Robot Bill and Ted are not a whole lot worse than Bill and Ted. Even though they were made to disrupt the past.
I think of Robot Bill and Ted as what the haters think of Bill and Ted.
That's probably the right way to describe them. That's like the only thing that is truly wrong about them is they're a little too whatchamacallit.
Aloof?
No,
like
I mean, yes.
Destruction of property.
They're a little too much like destruction and vandalism. A little too much of murder, and a little too much of slightly unconsensual interactions with the princesses.
Yeah. Not very progressive, our Robot Bill and Ted.
No, but that's kind of their thing. But like that's for the most part, their whole thing is they're going to go and replace Bill and Ted, and instead of Bill and Ted being rock, they're going to be metal, which is not that much. Hang on. Metal and rock is kind of the larger umbrella subgenre, and then metal is kind of a subgenre of, jump off point of rock. So I don't really think that works necessarily, because they also talk about metal bands. Like, actual Bill and Ted admire metal bands. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they're really changing the course of history, except for the fact that they still have to write the song that unites the world, essentially.
Well, people in the future just love Wild Stallion.
Yeah, so Wild Stallion is, I don't know, the Beatles. Like, that's the best example I can think of.
It's but the best band of all time, really.
Yeah.
If you're in 26, whatever year it came out.
Yeah, so anyways.
Far future.
But as established in the previous film, Wild Stallions are not good at first. And they don't get good for a while. I would say Death and Station are a really nice addition for new secondary characters, because the princesses are kind of side characters this whole time, and they only show up when it's convenient. They get a little bit more airtime in Face the Music, but it's just basically kind of Bill and Ted, and occasionally, is it Ted's dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ted's dad is the cop.
Ted's dad will occasionally show up more often than not. So Death and Station. Station is this all-knowing being Martian, right?
I don't know if he's from Mars. Maybe they said he was a Martian.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's the Jim.
That's right.
That's the Jim Henson character that we were mentioning. He's very blubbery, and he looks kind of like, I don't know. I guess Jim Henson's probably the best way to explain it. Like, he looks like a Jim Henson character, and his only word is station. So kind of before I Am Groot was a joke in film terms. I know that was in the comics for a while, but Station predates Groot's famous line of I Am Groot. He literally just says station in different tones, and it's kind of funny.
Apparently other characters can totally understand what he's saying.
Right. Which is really funny. It's kind of like R2-D2. Like, you never know what he's actually saying, but the characters seem to. So, and
if they bounce it off, they kind of the audience will be able to figure it out based on the context, and it works for this no rules movie.
Yeah. So there's that. Station would probably be nightmare fuel for kids nowadays. So
this whole middle sequence of this movie is nightmare fuel. I couldn't imagine seeing this in theaters.
So I know some people show Bill and Ted to their kids. I would not recommend that. I would say Bill and Ted is something you show when your kid asks about it, not when you start that way. Yeah. I really don't feel like this is... It's not super kid-friendly. There's, kind of the first one a little bit, but not really. It's more for 10-year-olds, or 10 to 12, I think is the earliest age range you could probably show this to.
In high school, learning about history, and you want to be like, hey, you want to learn about history like these guys did?
Yeah.
Here you go.
If I was a history teacher, I would show Bill and Ted as my substitute teacher video.
That would be one amazing class. You get one of them.
The funny thing is about Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure, jumping back a little bit, is they actually were a little bit consistent with the actual history of some of these characters. Napoleon is still kind of a dick, and Genghis Khan is also a little problematic. And they don't really show it. And they also show other characters from history and how they might be a little bit weird. Now, they're not quite as extreme as they probably were in real life, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not accurate, but it is decent.
It was better. It's better than some examples of these characters, I will say that.
I still like the Napoleon bowling alley.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
I think the best jokes that they had in the first one were the whole Freudian jokes as well.
Oh
We
god.
forgot to mention those. I think.
Ooh.
Yeah, they really nailed it a little
There's
too much.
So many layers there.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't even say it on this.
If you know any like basic level psych class stuff about Freud and you watch Excellent Adventure, it's pretty funny. But it's not like that's kind of the best comedy that comes out of that film. It's unfortunate that Joan of Arc really doesn't do anything in that film.
she does yoga.
That's
yoga. Kind of cool.
She does jazzercise yoga in an 80s Starcourt mall.
The other thing that come out of Excellent Adventure is the conspiracy Keanu meme.
The what?
Conspiracy Keanu? The one where he's like, what if this was the thing the whole time? And it's like his face. You might not recognize him, but it's like Keanu. And he's like,
right.
ooh.
I forgot that was Keanu.
Yeah, that's a still from Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure.
I didn't know that. Wow, that's funny. I didn't know that these movies spawned a meme.
Yeah,
That's really interesting. Anyways, jumping back to Bogus Journey, Death, very funny character. They introduced Death in Hell, and Bill and Ted challenge him to a series of trials, and those trials are essentially modern day board games that you've probably played a ton of in the last few months.
Clue,
Twister.
I think they played one more.
Sorry. I think they played Sorry.
The Twister one was off the rails.
Yeah. So they had to best Death multiple times. Really, they only had to best Death once, but Death was a sore loser.
Yeah, he was kind of competitive. He was like, all right, best 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
You know how you play with your friends and you're like, I could win 2 more times. Like,
but later we see that Death is the greatest bass player of all time.
what even? How did they attribute what his instrument was to being bass? Like, I don't.
I think they needed something big that fit like the size of the scythe. I guess is the best way.
Counts as a bass instrument.
Probably.
I mean, in the future, whatever music could be whatever we want.
It's true. It's true.
So I don't know. I like it though. He is the best bass player of all time. If you're gonna extrapolate out that far.
Yeah. And talking more about Act 2, there's the whole hell sequence. So, Bill and Ted, robot Bill and Ted, kill actual Bill and Ted. So they literally die, which is kind of a weird thing to wrap your brain around. Like, the characters literally died, and they
gray out. They're not colored in anymore.
And they go through hell to try and get back to the real world, which is like a horror movie plot, but it's in a comedy movie.
And most horror movies do that in the middle. This is like right at the beginning of Act 1.
Right. They don't waste any time. It's like Bill and Ted are dead from the first 30 minutes.
And this isn't a short movie either.
No.
This is a, hour 30 movie.
Something like that, yeah.
And they spend a lot of time navigating their big like Act 2 centerpiece.
Right.
And that makes up the better portion of this movie.
Right. So, but when they go to hell, you see both Bill and Ted's nightmare of what hell is supposed to be. You see that they go through army barracks because Ted's dad was trying to encourage one of the drill sergeants to recruit them because he still thinks they're, lazy pushovers. So there's this like really extreme camera angle and the architecture is all warped and like large army barracks, and then they go into the childhood nightmares, both Bill and Ted, where you see the Easter Bunny is Ted's worst nightmare, and you see that granny, zombie granny, giving Bill a kiss. It was Bill's nightmare. And then they somehow escape by, again, besting Death. And then Death joins them on their journey to heaven. And then, which is funny, like they try and disguise themselves to get into heaven, but then it's fine.
Yeah, they didn't need to. Although they do totally like beat up those
they build up innocent civilians going into heaven.
Just to get their like weird like same color clothes. I mean, I don't know. We're one to talk. We're wearing the same shirt.
Yeah, well, that's because I requested it.
But like, the future, heaven, they have all these different fashion choices, and Bill and Ted just kind of go with it. Although they have interesting fashion choices too.
So anyways, they get back. The station joins them as they go back to Earth, and God grants them the ability to go back to Earth, essentially. Kind of spoiler alert, a good place a little bit. Anywho,
there's some threads between good place and this one.
Yeah, anywho. So originally this film was called Bill and Ted Go to Hell, which I found out by watching the Comic-Con interview, the Comic-Con at Home interview with the whole cast and crew from Kevin Smith. And Kevin Smith brought up that it was originally called Go to Hell, but the ratings board didn't like that, or the production company didn't like that title. So they're like, you have to change it. So they went with Bogus Journey, which fits the naming scheme of the original. But I honestly think Go to Hell would have been a really awesome title for the film.
Yeah.
You know?
It's bold. Either way, this movie is bold. They also changed directors, too.
Yeah.
They've done that every single movie, which says a lot about the production cycle of this franchise.
At least the writers have stayed stagnant the whole time.
Yep.
The last thing I want to say is about the final scene. Station builds two robot Bill and Teds to face robot Bill and Ted's, evil robot Bill and Ted's. They destroy them, but then the bad guy, who I cannot remember his name because it's probably not important.
Yeah, he's
shows
just like
up.
He's
generic Darth Vader.
It's not death. He's just he's like a. Yeah, he's like German Darth Vader or something. I don't know. Very
discount Spaceballs Darth Vader.
Yeah, not even Spaceballs level. Like it was,
and
really
he
weird.
Challenges them to a fight, and it's a jumping back and forth of like, I went back to my time, and they bring back the time machine in this final moment. So they're like, I've brought a gun, and then they're like, and it's all this Battle of the Bands sequence.
Yeah, there's like a logic time travel battle where he tries to shoot the gun, and the gun is just like confetti.
Yeah, and then they're like, but we switched it, and then we switched it, and then we switched it, and then eventually he gets defeated by getting trapped or something, and then sent back. And Rufus shows up in the last minute, because that's what Rufus does. Yeah. He's basically the Gandalf of the series.
He's dressed for the part.
George Carlin, you American treasure. It's interesting. And then the film ends with Bill and Ted going back in time for 16 months, but literally showing up seconds later, dressed like actual, kind of like Kip Rock, almost.
Or like ZZ Top.
It's very
Bill
weird.
has a super long beard.
It's
like
super strange.
Idealized rocker version of himself.
But they've become a rock band, and they rock the world for many years, as we see in the credits, but then they reach a downfall like every rock band seems to do. And it was really funny to me that they're like, okay, we were asking the question before we Face the Music, are they going to bring that into Face the Music? And they actually do, which we'll get into.
That newspaper sequence or newsreel sequence is really fun because you can track all the little things in the background and see what year it is, and that's something cool you can revisit.
Yeah, and it was funny because I bet a lot of the rock bands at this time, I mean, this was 1991, a lot of the rock bands that were big in the 80s hadn't quite hit their pretty major downfall just yet. You know what I mean?
Music was evolving.
Except for maybe Van Halen is probably the only example. But
and this movie pays a lot of respect. This whole franchise pays a lot of respect to Van Halen.
Right.
And they, in most ways, of course, their scale is so small, they really could only get a few famous people. They did get Kiss to perform music in the first one, so that was pretty cool that they were able to do that. But outside of that, they didn't have a lot of star power that was like existing, and they really made a lot with it. And even this new movie that we're about to talk about had about the same budget as the second one, so it's
which was
really
the most expensive
scale.
film, right?
Yeah, $25 million, so pretty small for talking about like Tenet, for example.
Yeah,
$250 million.
Right.
So totally different ballgame. Two movies that came out the same year.
Yeah. One thing we forgot to mention in Excellent Adventure is the history report. And so...
Oh, the sort of plot hole with it was a report in the beginning.
Yes.
And at the end, it's more of a presentation.
So here's the thing. So for Bill and Ted San Dimas, how have we not said San Dimas?
I don't know how we've not said San.
The whole
gotta
series
represent
takes
San
place
Dimas.
in San Dimas. We got to mention that. The San Dimas High School that they go to, they're supposed to do a history presentation, and in the original cut of the film, they had done just like a generic. They go into their classroom, do a history report. Very similar to the opening of Transformers 1, where Sam Witwicky is giving a history report on his uncle.
Einstein was wrong.
But they realized that visually that was super boring, and they did a reshoot really close to the release where they did a full-on like theater production with every student, and they show up and put on literally the best history report ever because they bring in all of these famous people. Although I don't know how much time they had to spend with these famous historical icons on learning about them, but when they show up to this thing, they knew exactly what they needed.
It's like movie logic. Like time is elastic. They
Right.
Come up with whatever presentation.
The
need.
coils of time.
Yeah, when you're in the phone booth, you're not experiencing time
Right.
like we are right now.
Right. But kind of.
Yeah. Because obviously they aged
Right.
millions of years or whatever, but
Right. So,
Yeah.
to say that, so it was this giant grand finale rock show where all of these historical figures show up and they do a
Yeah.
whole presentation, they bow, and then there's music to it, and it's great and very fun and all that stuff.
and it's funny that like the way that it seems like the way they came up with it at the beginning, they're like, oh, it's a history report, and
Yeah.
then to sort of do the big payoff at the end, they realized it couldn't be a written thing because
Right.
that wouldn't be enough of a finale because
It just
most of what they did in the movie was just the setup
Yeah.
for the big finale.
Which
And
I
so
agree.
It needed to be a
I
presentation.
agree. Filmmaking wise and story structure wise, it totally makes sense for them to do the grand finale. But my entire question of like, why is this history report like High School Musical level?
It really was.
It was
High
insane.
School Musical before High School Musical.
It was insane. I'm like, what is this school doing? Like,
San Dimas.
why is
Let
San
us know,
Dimas
San Dimas.
churning out these like giant historic? Like, do they have like some feeder school to like? I don't know what's the highest school
I don't
like
know. Maybe
in history majors.
Maybe that's where they get all their Juilliard scholarships. From
Who
San
knows?
Dimas.
San Dimas.
Just like High School Musical.
Anywho, yeah. So Excellent Adventure, great. Bogus Journey, great. They're both like, I would give Excellent Adventure a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, we're like right in the middle.
Roughly.
Both of them are right in
I'd
the
give
middle.
Bogus like a 6.57. Jumping into Face the Music, which is the I think it's the final film. I can't imagine that they would make another strict Bill and Ted film.
I think we can say that it's a trilogy.
Yeah. It's very compact. This film wraps it up really clean. So do you want to talk about Bill and Ted Face the Music a little bit?
So up until this point in the canon, if you could even call it that, Bill and Ted have not achieved fame by themselves. They've not written a cool song. They've not even really learned how to play the guitar without cheating, without using time travel. And they, as George Carlin said in the one of the original, I don't even know which one it is, he says, "Trust me, they get better."
Yeah, that's
like,
the first one.
It's like, wait a minute. Like, they're supposed to get better. It's been decades.
Mm-hmm.
And we really didn't know what to expect from this movie because, one, it's in quarantine, so we're like, is it even a good movie? Like, do good movies come out anymore?
Right.
And after we had seen the first
other
two,
we were so skeptical.
This could be,
yeah.
But
we spent $35 on all three of these movies, and I was a little worried that my purchase had gone to waste.
I can say that it didn't go to waste.
No.
But in the middle of that week, we're like,
Do we really
what
want to watch
What did
Face
we
the Music?
do? What did we get ourselves into? So, They must have made this movie before the quarantine. They
Yeah,
definitely shot it before the
I
quarantine.
think they started this film probably late 2018 and probably shot the majority of it in 2019. I definitely feel like the post-production was probably done in the latter half of 2019 and 2020. I think it was... I don't know if it was originally set for a summer release or if it was originally supposed to come out in the fall. Anywho. I don't remember.
Yeah, it seems like this movie benefited from being on streaming.
Right.
Like, if it was in the theaters, it would have been going against... I don't know what, like...
It wouldn't have been good.
The superhero movies, or if they were rescheduled, and...
What was supposed to be
weird.
coming out in September? Kingsman was supposed to be coming out. Kingsman. That had been rescheduled prior to.
Yeah. If you just go with, like, the chalk, you would have been, like, James Bond...
Bond got moved back.
Yeah, so there would have been a bunch of other things that we would have probably seen, and we would have probably missed this one.
Right.
It wouldn't have been on our radar at all.
Yeah, I think we would have. This wasn't even. I mean, as you can tell, as I said before, this series, this franchise frenzy wasn't even planned for the show. We just did it because it was right there in front of our faces, and literally everything we can. Duncan and I have a podcast that we've been planning to do where we just discuss how media has changed, and literally things change on the weekly, and we don't know what's going to happen in terms of entertainment media.
Yeah, Microsoft just changed entire future of gaming, right?
Right.
They're going to have a decade of money.
Right,
profits,
so-
so we don't know. Like, we don't want to short
So
somebody by leaving them out, so we're going to have to be more diligent with our planning for that. So sometimes we'll just throw something in like this.
Yeah, so expect.
go off
I mean,
on a crazy journey.
this semester for episodes that we've planned ahead, because we have pretty much most of them set. We are doing mostly things that have come out and are finished, because we're not ready to do another one that's coming out soon, because we don't know if it will even come out.
Yeah.
You know. So that's some things to say. Anyways, back to Bill and Ted.
So now we're gonna face the music of the plot here.
Yeah.
So Bill and Ted have to write a song. They have to write a song that's gonna make Wild Stallions a
Unite the
universal hit.
Yeah.
And yeah, just apparently for this movie they're uniting the world. Although, if you unite the world, I think that's a good enough accomplishment for the universe.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like shockwaves go out from there. If we could do that in 2020.
Oh, we should explain. At the beginning of this film, the turntable of time, because in the Bill and Ted universe, we've confirmed that there are the coils of time, and everything is a spinning vinyl.
Yeah.
So the turntable of time in this film is starting to rupture, and time is folding in on itself. And the space-time continuum, there's a hole in the space-time continuum, and just everything's going crazy.
Yeah, and the Bill and Ted are basically hit with this rude awakening within the first couple minutes of the film that they have a countdown to save humanity, which is not unlike the countdown we are facing in real life.
Yes.
Ironically, if you saw any news about a giant countdown clock on a giant building somewhere, that actually happened. So very topical for our sort of impending future.
Right.
But and this one's more personal. You know, Bill and Ted, they want to save the universe, but they also have like, you know, they also have
20 years of failures.
Yeah, they have to face sort of their own
Demons.
Yeah, their own like outcome with their families and their career. What are they going to do with this later part of their life?
Their marriage.
Yeah, like what does retirement look like for them?
Right.
You know, they're over 50 now, so like things are more difficult.
I definitely
in
feel like
2020.
Wild Stallions was like if the Wild Stallions were a real band, they would be a one-hit wonder, and we would play their song at proms and at, you know, celebrations, but we would always ask the question, what happened to Wild Stallions?
Yeah.
You know.
So the great leader, who is the wife of Rufus's character. I don't know what her name is. I don't know if they give her a name.
She does have a name.
But so
Give me
I'm
one
gonna like do a rundown of the Rufus family here. We have Rufus, who's played by George Carlin. And he's not in this movie because George Carlin's no longer with us, unfortunately. But they did sort of replace and sort of add to this family by having the great leader, who is his wife, and then Rufus's daughter is Kelly, which is kind of funny because in real life, George Carlin's daughter is named Kelly. But the character Kelly in this...
Holland Taylor plays the great leader.
Okay.
But it is Rufus's wife. Mm-hmm. We have confirmed this.
And then Christian Shaw plays the great leader's daughter.
Yes.
Kelly. And she kind of takes on the Rufus role where she goes to Bill and Ted and says, you guys have to come with me. The world's at stake.
Yes.
And they're like, okay. And they kind of travel to the intelligent society and they're faced with this big dilemma, and it's kind of like, you're on the clock.
Yeah.
So, 26 I thought it was 26 something. Okay, so it's not that far away, guys. Only a couple of decades. And so yeah, basically, Bill and Ted, they're probably the most notable procrastinators in the extended universe.
Oh, for sure.
They're like, well, how are we gonna do this, Bill?
Right.
Well, and they're like, what if we stole it?
Yeah.
From ourselves. Which
is very Bill and Ted.
Yeah, like the point of the movie is for them to write it themselves, but of course, that's not what they're gonna do. They're gonna do something totally insane, and what I do like is the timing of the clock is really close to
the runtime of the movie.
Like the clock sort of expires at the same rate that the movie does.
Yes.
So that part
it's the same time rules as what was set up in Excellent Adventure.
Yep.
Where they have to get back for their history report on time.
7:17 p.m.
Yes. Do you have anything else to say about it?
So we have to introduce the daughters here because we haven't talked about them yet. So
Thea and Billy
are played
by
the
Samara
daughters
Weaving
of Bill
and Bridget Lindy Payne.
Mm-hmm. And
great casting.
Oh yeah, between the both of them, we also saw Samara in the Babysitter,
which
we'll talk about on this show eventually. Yeah. But like, I still was really impressed with the way that those two are able to take on the characters.
Yeah.
And really be like a
Bill
fun
and Ted
caricature
too.
Of the Bill and Ted,
yeah.
But also like it's not demeaning. It's not like it's sort of it's not like insensitive. Like
no,
it's a good interpretation of what that's what those children would be like. If
I would describe it as the Tom Hardy replacement for Mad Max. Like that's how good they fit the mold of the characters. And I'm not saying it's like exceptional, beautiful, amazing acting, but they fit Bill and Ted's character to a T.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the blueprint for being in this movie is just have your mouth open 3/4 of the time. That's really what it is. And when we're watching it, that's what you, as the audience member, also exude as well. So it works out well. Yeah. And I will say, this movie is set in 2020.
Yes.
It's very interesting. The apocalypse is happening in 2020.
Which is hilarious that's why this, and we'll talk about this more, this and Tenet are like the two best films for the current day.
Yeah. They somehow hit the nail on the head. They didn't try to, but they did.
Yes.
And so... everybody knows that the best, most successful musician with the greatest outlook. Who would you steal the song from, Lucas? If you were gonna have to steal a song to save the universe, who would you pick?
Oh,
because I know who Bill and Ted picked.
In terms of songwriting, I'd have to go with like. Well, it depends on what you're asking.
You're stealing a future song.
We're specifically talking about one artist,
You're going to the future. You're stealing a song from the artist who has like the best outlook. That's like, this person's gonna make the album of the year in like a couple years.
Honestly, right now, I would probably go with Taylor Swift in this in this specific instance. Now, I get to the climax of the film, and I will rephrase my statement a little bit.
All right. So, Bill and Ted, they, in addition to crashing marriage counseling,
right? Which
and
I think is the funniest
beautiful.
scene in the film.
It's really hard to describe, but
specifically
they
because of how. Hang on, let me get it. How Jillian Bell's performance in that scene as the therapist.
Oh, and so if you don't know,
our 22 Jump Street star,
she is the big bad in 22 Jump Street.
Yes,
she was like the ringleader of the like whatever
of the drug cartel. Yeah.
In 22 Jump Street, which her performance was hilarious, and that I die every time I think about that scene between her and Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
But yeah, she really good in serious role, like serious, like what's really going on here?
Yeah.
And then she's like, I can't deal with this.
Well, I think the best part to me is when she starts to unravel when she finds out that it's time travel that created this marriage. And the question that I just have is why is the therapist having a mental breakdown with when she, because first, she could have been like every other character in this series and been like, time travel is not real. That's
most authority figures say.
Yeah, but the moment she's like, wait, what do you mean time travel? And she's just like, because they're all four of them are like, yeah, we time traveled from the past. And she's like, oh no. Like,
therapists are people too. They're just as susceptible.
That is seriously one of my favorite scenes from the film. Oh, good stuff. So anyway, continue.
They time hop a little bit. They realize, oh, we haven't written the song yet, dude. We got to get over to the future where we rip the song.
Yeah.
And, which is funny because they're trying to get the song that they stole.
Yes.
Not the song that they wrote. But they're using wrote very, very loosely here. But in 2025, they come across a very interesting version of Bill and Ted.
Right.
Who are not failures like the previous version, but they're kind of living the life. They're in like a mansion and they got a bunch of funny clothes.
Well, you forgot to mention they went back in time the first time and they saw themselves as complete
forward in time.
They went forward in time to 2022 and the world is...
I don't think 2022 is going to be a good year.
Moderately normal. Like, I mean, there wasn't very many people on set, so maybe we are still following.
It looks pretty distant there. I don't know,
but they've become two deadbeat dads that are cruising the world in Hawaiian shirts, trying to reboot Wild Stallions on sheer depression.
Yeah, not a good look. So they escape that, like, okay, this is not the right reality. So they go forward a little bit more, and they find like British Bill and Ted,
which makes no sense.
That doesn't make. Yeah, I was like, what's happening in 2025? And British Bill and Ted are con artists,
right?
And they stole the song from
Dave Grohl,
who's gonna make the best album of 2025.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I can't wait.
Foo Fighters, let's go, bring it on. Yeah,
Dave Grohl, what an upward trend. So and then, of course, Dave Grohl has a cameo in this movie. He returns to his house.
Which I'm so sad that it wasn't just more of like, who the hell are you guys? Dave Grohl, come on, man. I was hoping you'd be more in this film. It's okay. He's
back to the grind. You gotta make music.
He's gotta make that music.
Successful.
Yeah.
You can't just reinvent yourself every year. Like it's.
Anyways.
It takes a lot. All right.
Yeah. They jump into the future again.
This time, way into the 2067.
To the San Dimas prison.
Oh, that one's on here. Oh, they did do that, but it's not.
Yeah. Is that? Am I mixing it up?
No, you're right, but it's. I don't think it's.
They go. You're right. They keep going in the future.
Yeah, they go like 2030 something.
That's because their daughters go to the past.
Yeah. So we've told you the Bill and Ted part.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Dennis, who is an evil robot
Yes.
sent by the Great Leader.
Not to be confused with the evil robots from the previous
Yes,
movie.
Dennis is more like an android, where he's programmed, but he can act like a human. He has visual, very like he's not an actual like animatronic robot. He's a real person.
He's more. I would describe him as a timid Terminator.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. Put
He's
that
a
as
Terminator
hashtag.
with the tail in between his legs.
So Dennis goes from whatever the like utopian future year to 2020.
Yes.
And then he has been sent to destroy Bill and Ted.
Right.
Because that's, of course, how you solve a time travel problem. You just start killing people. It works every time. So he accidentally...
Well, we gotta explain what Thea and Billy have been doing.
Okay. But they're like, they see Dennis, he goes off the rails, so they try to go back in time after a warning from Kelly. So Billy and Thea go back in time to recruit their favorite historical figures, specifically musicians.
That were educated and taught by their dads, Bill and Ted.
Yeah. So they know a lot about music history.
Yeah.
So they go to the 60s to recruit Jimi Hendrix. But Jimi Hendrix is like...
He's a little stubborn, and he doesn't...
You two are crazy.
Yeah.
I don't want this right now. So which the guy had a really good performance. I don't know who was the Jimi Hendrix actor, but
I have it here.
he really looked like him. I was impressed. I didn't think they were gonna do that and have such like.
Daz Man Still plays Jimi Hendrix in this film. That's his name. Daz Man Still.
What a performance! So they go to convince Hendrix. He says no. They go back to the 30s.
Yes.
Convince another musician, Louis Armstrong, bring him to the 60s.
Is easily the best side character performance in this film. He nails Louis Armstrong. Got the voice and everything. I want to see a whole Louis Armstrong
just put that guy,
biopic.
Do a
with
Netflix
him,
special
because
right
I swear to God, his performance was so good. If you've listened to any Louis Armstrong music, he just nails the voice. Like just absolutely crushes it. It was fantastic. It had no right to be this good for a comedy, and it was.
So
Jeremiah Kraft plays Louis Armstrong.
Awesome. So
Yes.
they gather up their team, which includes Mozart, Ling Loon, and Grom, a prehistoric drummer.
Yes.
So they gather this super musician team. Meanwhile, Bill and Ted are off getting tricked by other Bill and Ted and Dave Grohl, which that we already talked about. That was pretty insane. And then now we get to Dennis.
Yeah.
Just like Dennis from It's Always Sunny. He's a murderer. Dennis shoots Thea and Billy and sends
all
them,
the musicians.
Yeah, and all the musicians.
Kelly.
Sends them all to hell.
Yeah.
And
as well as Bill's dad in one of the previous timelines.
and detective
And the SWAT van.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they all go down to hell, and that's.
Oh, and Kid
Pretty
Cudi.
unexpected.
Kid Cudi shows up because of the time breaks.
Yeah,
that
so
are showing up.
Kid Cudi is
Kid
like
Cudi just shows up right before everyone
like
gets
a
obliterated.
universal. Kid Cudi is a universal expert on time travel.
Which we'll explain in a second.
So it's apparently in 2020,
Yeah.
it's possible to just become an expert on nuclear physics and time travel and all those other things that you can do.
Kind of.
Just if you watch Palm Springs, you can pick up a little bit of
Yes,
that.
yeah.
Apparently, quarantine is just a outlet for all kinds of things. So you can always expand your horizons.
Correct.
And so Kid Cudi is a valuable member of this dream team, and we'll see.
Dream Team Band.
Yeah. And Bill and Ted have been given the instructions to perform at 7:17 p.m. at MP46.
Yes.
And they have no idea where that is. For whatever reason, I was like, is that some kind of like location in the future? Or like, I was thinking it had to be in this like gray future utopian realm.
Yeah.
And we're like, what is MP46? But they can't really focus on that because they have to find the song.
Yeah.
And they weren't really able to find the song by themselves, but they do find their way into hell.
Yes. But before that, they finally go to the future. So they go to the future again, which is in like 2030.
Yeah,
right? And that's when Bill and Ted are in prison, and they're jacked as hell. And Bill has no hair, and Ted has a mohawk and a full
interesting evolution from Keanu. There.
Yeah, which is hilarious. He looks, like a Far Cry villain or something like that. It's great.
Nice comp.
And then they pop into the future again when Bill and Ted are on their deathbeds, supposedly. And that Bill and Ted's like, you did write the song. We're not effing with you this time. Here it is on a USB drive.
Oh, easy.
Which who uses USB drives
in whatever
in quarantine? But 2067 had it.
Nice.
So then Dennis finally catches up to them, and they're like, "We have the song, Dennis." And Dennis is like, "Oh no."
That's awkward. Because I have to kill you now.
Well, but he's like, "But now I can't kill you because you found the song." And they're like, "Well," and they notice the time machine is gone because the future princesses escaped in the time machine to go on their own time machine journey, which I also want to see a Face the Music 0.5 where it's just the princesses storyline. I feel like that would be really fun. They're like, "All right, Dennis, you have to destroy us." And they're like, "But I can't do it." Like I said, timid Terminator. It's great. But he eventually does it. They all go to hell. They meet up with Billy and Thea, and they basically they're like, "All right, how are we gonna get back?" And they're like, "Well, we could go find Death, because we know Death left the band in Bogus Journey and kind of did his own thing, but no one appreciated it. And
no one appreciated his
Death
40-minute guitar solos.
Death basically went back to hell and had a full midlife crisis issue, and it's great. So there's a rekindling where Billy and Thea actually go in and talk to Death and basically convince him to join the band again for Wild Stallions. And they go back to the present. Death. They all pile into the SWAT van. And they travel up.
The SWAT van.
They travel up the chute of hell, and they pop back into the present day where time has just gone absolutely bonkers.
Basically, it looked like what was happening outside like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, in California, basically that.
Yeah, it was basically at that time too, where we were like, yeah, this is what's happening outside too.
Yeah. Planets were showing up in the sky. Who knows? Crazy stuff.
And they're right in the center of it all, Interstate 210.
Yes.
At mile marker MP46.
Back in San Dimas.
Woo! What a great place to go for a drive.
Yep. Beautiful. Do you want to explain the ending?
So, speaking of drive, is when Dennis was pointing his robot gun at Bill and Ted in order to try to trick Dennis into killing them so they could go to hell and rescue everybody.
They can die again.
They had to break the flash drive and be like, "Look, we don't have the song; it's broken." And so now they don't have it. So now that we're back at the concert area at MP46, they realize they pull out the two pieces of the flash drive, and the prophecy said a song by Preston and Logan will unite the entire universe. And the two sides of the USB drive say Preston and Logan. And they're like, wait a minute.
And the two of them are staring at their daughters while they do it.
That's not us, dude. It's them.
So I would basically say Billy and Thea are the universally praised Beatles DJ Khaled.
Nice. Are you saying because they produced the song?
Basically. But they don't actually put a whole lot into the song other than they just gather the crew.
They gather the crew and the equipment and they make it all work.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right.
They are the DJ
Excellent.
Khaled of the universal song that saves the world.
Maybe that's the future of music.
Yeah. Face the music.
Is the music producers out there? You can appreciate that, Lucas.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure can.
And then, of course, they do some time travel nonsense. Kid Cudi, who's revealed a station.
Yes. Because they didn't want to make a gym, which honestly makes sense because he's a little weird looking for
I don't know how a station would have aged.
It makes sense
if he was
that
his
that
original
Kid
form.
Cudi would be the station replacement in this thing. And now I have a bigger appreciation for Kid Cudi, even though I haven't heard a song from him in maybe 7 years.
Day and night, Kid Cudi.
Day and night, or anything that Steve Aoki and him produced. I don't know.
So then they use the original phone booth to do like an infinite copy situation. Where
Right.
they give everybody instruments. They can all amplify the sound throughout the entire universe. And here's where we go into the anything goes rules of time travel, where it's just you can overwrite things, going back and forth between time travel will totally correct things, and it's no longer self-consistent, which goes along with the previous movies' time travel rules.
Right.
And the family's reunited, and then Bill and Ted lead the band. Death is there.
Yeah.
The entire super band is there, and the universe is repaired, and everyone goes back to their proper locations. And then we have an after credits scene with the elderly Bill and Ted in the retirement home.
They have to do their final.
Excellent!
But instead of doing just that one guitar riff, they do an entire like jam session, and it's quite nice. It's pretty sweet. Yeah, it's pretty excellent, if you would.
Yeah, it was a solid ending to a insane and tumultuous franchise.
Very much so. What I want to say about Bill and Ted Face the Music is it's easily the best one. Time travel is actually used in this film. It wasn't really used in Bogus Adventure until the very end. Thea and Billy are great. We've mentioned that, like I said, follows the credits of Bogus, which surprisingly it didn't have to, and it probably would have been. It probably would have just. I thought they were just going to do another generic Bill and Ted adventure. But no, they like straight up kept the continuity, which I thought was hilarious. You can't fix the future. Basically, the theme of the movie is you can't fix the future without facing what's in the present. The poor therapist. I really want to know what's going on in her head. The time musician heist was really cool. Like I said, I think who they got for the musicians was great. The Jimi Hendrix, Louis Armstrong, Mozart jam session is probably the best song in the whole film.
Just plug in your speakers into your time machine and rock out in the middle of the street.
Yeah,
Austria.
Yeah, it was really cool. I think Kelly's character, Rufus's daughter, is also a really good addition to the film. Really fits the bill, and I'm glad that she was more present than George Carlin's character was. And then also the only problem with this film is it's not as good if you haven't seen the two movies
if you're
prior.
coming in now,
you can't just skip to this film.
Same,
It won't be as interesting. You'll be very confused, and it will just be. I mean, you could probably watch it, but it's like it's weird.
Yeah, you have to sort of meet Bill and Ted. You have to get a sense for the universe, get a sense for the time in history if you're not familiar with where we were at in the world at that point, and it all ties together at the end. It all makes sense, and Bill and Ted faced the music. They did it in their own miraculous and insane way.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts for Face the Music before we kind of get into our overall thoughts of the series?
I've been really I listened to Alex Winter talk about this movie, and I was really impressed with his ability as a producer and as like a decision maker for the franchise, because he kind of has 2 points to career. He's early on actor, and then he did a lot of directing and producing, being an executive.
Yeah.
And now he kind of put back into this actor role, and he basically didn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
Basically went right back into the same shoes and the same sort of like equivalent outfit, and he was Bill S. Preston Esquire.
Yes.
And without his performance, I thought Keanu's performance was good, but it's interesting. He's a little bit subdued.
Yeah.
Compared to his original.
Well, because he's done so much serious stuff since then.
He's more serious.
Yeah, I think he had to do a little bit of work to get it done. Mm-hmm. Also, Keanu without facial hair, not the right look.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's not a look for him.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't work.
But I can see why. And
yeah,
of course, I
understand why they did it in this film, but like after John Wick, it just doesn't make sense. And I'm glad because I've seen videos of the Matrix 4 shooting. He does have facial hair in those movies.
Good.
Yeah.
So okay, explain the Keanu like dude evolution.
Yeah. So the woe complex. So as I've titled it is Keanu went from whoa to whoa.
Nice. There we go.
And it's basically Oh,
good.
Come on. There we go.
Excellent.
But yeah, so that's the problem is Keanu hasn't done a non-serious a non-serious character like Ted in a long time. You know, the last one probably would have been maybe Point Break-ish. You know what I mean? But after Matrix, his career was kind of sealed as this very serious, like hard exterior character. Not to say that he couldn't do it. It was definitely harder for him to jump back into it. Because Keanu, we all know, very talented actor, very talented. Yeah. So this doesn't like show.
It's not a reflection on him. It's just your career goes
changed so much.
way.
Yeah, you know.
But it fits with the way the cycle that Bill and Ted are at now. Like,
right.
We're at the end of their journey for the movie,
right.
And it fits with this sort of retirement stage for the characters.
Yes. The other thing I want to say is Bill and Ted are amazing dads. They're they're letdowns to everyone except their daughters. Their daughters love them through thick and thin, and you can clearly tell. There's like a line in the film where it's like, how are you guys? And it's like, yeah, we're fine.
They also
and then it's like, but how are you? You know, like
they also the daughters refer to both of them as dads.
Yes,
which is kind of funny. It's
hilarious.
Kind of a trope from the original where
they in the film they live next to each other.
Yeah, so you can kind of see like the children are just much of a product of the family,
right?
As they are a product, as Bill and Ted are a product of their own like friendship and culture, which is kind of funny. In one way, Bill and Ted are supposed to grow up and be adults and have like their own individuality, but in the same way, they're still also supposed to be a collective unit.
Yeah, and the one thing I forgot to mention is they had in a very poetic sense, they had a very good turn as fathers because they're both products of which we didn't mention, seriously bad, ugly divorce.
Yeah,
like really messy divorce. Like it's not clean at all. As we've seen in the first movie, Missy, who was like a few grades ahead of them.
Yeah, she was like Bill's crush or whatever.
Yes, and they asked her to prom. Mm-hmm. But at the start of Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure, Missy is just gotten married to Bill's dad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's really
which
weird,
is really awkward and weird. And then at the beginning of Bogus Journey, Missy is now married to Ted's dad. So already messy.
And then in the third one, Missy is married to Deacon, who is
Ted's brother. Younger brother.
What?
It's so weird. It's one of the
and then
weird...
Deacon is played by Beck Bennett.
Yes,
who's
from
hilarious
SNL.
in his own right. But,
yeah.
it's kind of funny that he's like retroactively included in this franchise.
I was kind of bummed that he didn't get more screen time because he's just such an exceptional actor,
Yeah.
but I understand why he didn't. But, like, I'm like, they are amazing dads, and they're very present. I think they just were a little rocky on the marriage stuff because they couldn't separate themselves from Bill and Ted. They were always a unit, you know?
And they learned to be more individual with their marriages.
Yes.
Throughout the course of this movie. And I think that's the sort of character growth standpoint here that
Yeah.
they finally face the music in more ways than one.
And it was, it's good. So I think overall, I think Face the Music is easily the best one. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I think the series overall with Face the Music is pretty fun. Without it, not so much.
Big yikes.
Big yikes, but that's okay. They kind of fixed it. They didn't drop the major word in the third one. Thank God.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any wrap up thoughts before we go into 1-star reviews? Kind of good for time.
This franchise is totally unexpected. I had seen it before, the first two, but I just...
This was a serendipitous decision on Duncan and I's part to do this.
A very insane turn of events. I'm glad we ended up here doing the franchise frenzy. Bill and Ted is quite the way to turn this Lucas 2 Blue season.
Yes,
and
it was a perfect start. So
and
this will be
now we're gonna move into 1-star reviews, which is our new favorite thing to do.
So so we did this with 21 Jump Street, and did we do this on any? Did we do High School Musical? Yeah. So basically, we've collected some 1-star reviews, which surprisingly there weren't as many 1-star reviews that I thought there was gonna be. There was quite few of them, which is interesting. But I found some great ones, and let me pull them up real quickly. I think there we go. Find her.
There's Apple.
Yeah, and so let me just highlight all of these and open them up. Is it gonna open? Come on. There we go. Oh, it's loading.
There we go.
Is it just one?
You got all
Oh, okay. They're all in there. Okay. So the first one, let's see here. That is okay. So the 2020 reviews are definitely the Face the Music ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is definitely the first one. Yeah. So I'll read through this one and then you can do the next one.
Okay.
How's that sound? So this one is for the first movie. That was written in 2006. And if I had a time machine, I would kill the director of this movie. Rough. That's a bit harsh criticism. I recently purchased this movie from an HMV, so home movie video store, I probably imagine is what he's referring to, for around $15. Let's just say I didn't get my money's worth. The movie was extremely boring, unfunny, and a waste of time. The movie doesn't even fit. Oh, whoops! Hang on.
It didn't preview it.
Yeah. Sorry. Hang on. I'm trying to. There we go. The movie doesn't even fit the category of stupid funny. Scenes in this movie were longer than they should have been, which made it boring. The jokes used were all based on the same idea, making them tired right from the beginning. The acting in this movie was extremely terrible. I have a hard time believing he misspelled Keanu.
Nice.
I have a hard time believing Keanu.
Spelled exactly how it sounds.
Keanu Reeves. Did he spell? He spelled it wrong, didn't he?
That's right.
That's right. Okay, Keanu Reeves.
But
I want to go with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, you go with it. Go with it.
Was in this. Only thing I found useful from this movie. ... I had an idea. Just wait. ... Nope. Nothing. Easy steps for making your own terrible movie. 1. Let a 14-year-old write your fantasy story. Now, it's important that he does his worst thinking. Oh, and drunk too. Did you just advocate for underage drinking?
No. We're not doing that here.
2. Hire some Bob Hope for jokes. Rough. 3. Make sure it has plenty of plot holes in it. Example, Beethoven not being deaf. Okay.
What?
I don't understand. 4. Throw in a telephone booth and, it'd be so much easier just to react to this movie. Like, that is scathing, but also makes no sense whatsoever. So, there you go. This guy paid $15 and he didn't think he got his money's worth.
All right. Let's make that one a little bigger.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
So this
is for Bogus.
All right, Bogus Adventure. This review is a 1 out of 10 stars. That it's from the 8th of December 2000. The title of the review is "I am in awe. It baffles me how much insanely stupid, censored
crap
can be so
it's
popular."
It's gotta be crap.
They censored it, not me. At no point in this utterly meaningless trash was it even remotely funny or intelligent or even laughable. It was just plain awful. My already faltering respect for Keanu Reeves took a deep plunge. Luckily, there is The Matrix to hold on to. I think I need to watch it as antidote now. With the exception of Barbed Wire, this is probably one of the worst movies I have had the misfortune to watch. The only reason I saw it, though, at all, was that I was paralyzed by the awfulness and couldn't reach the remote. 9 out of 25 people found this review helpful.
Wow.
Holy smokes.
That's insane.
What even is Barbed Wire?
I don't know, but we gotta look it
It's
up.
in quotes.
Hopefully it's a franchise. Maybe
It's
we'll
in quotes?
Maybe we'll do a new format episode on it.
So it could be some kind of movie.
Okay, so I'll read this one. This is for Face the Music. Terrible. Dumb. Came 20 years late. Terrible acting. Insane levels of cringe. Supporting actors suck. Bill and Ted suck. Kid Cudi sucks. Bad editing. Bad effects. Forces some laughs, but most jokes fail completely. Excuse me. Writing in the middle of leaving, sneaking into Tenet. Don't watch this terrible movie. So part of me.
Wait a minute. Hold up.
That last sentence makes me.
Is this person from Canada?
Maybe, or somewhere else in the world where you can actually go see a movie.
So this person spelled Kid Cudi with a K, the Cudi part.
I think that. Oh no, it is a C. You're right.
The Cudi part was the C.
I don't feel like the editing was bad in this film. I think the effects were a little low res, but it's a comedy film and it's a low budget.
That's the budget.
I'm not really I actually think it's actually pretty good effects for what it is.
And then the elephant in the room in this review is they spelled Tenet wrong.
Tenet. Don't watch this terrible
So how do you
movie.
sneak into Tenet in quarantine? Is it because there's more seats in the theater? Like what's...
Maybe? I don't know. But whatever this guy's polling is problematic in a number of levels.
27 people found this helpful. What are you
Writing
doing
in the middle of
IMDb?
leaving. So maybe he didn't even finish the movie.
Maybe he thought that one was bad too and he wrote a review elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look up this person's rating of Tenet and find out.
Oh my goodness.
But who knows? And then the final one you can read. It's short.
Okay. A most embarrassing movie. 1 out of 10 stars from this month. The 8th.
Yeah.
Dude, this is the most embarrassingly bad movie that I sincerely regret watching. Don't do it, guys, and try to remember the good times. Wow, alright. At least this person seems like they like the other one.
I think, yeah. So there were a few reviews that I read like that, but this one was definitely the most funny. So there you go. You can look these up on IMDb if you're that curious. You'll probably be able to find them. But that was 1-star reviews. I honestly, I don't know if we have much else to say for this episode. Did you have any things you wanted to wrap up with?
This franchise was probably on my top 10 list of movies for 2020. I'm not
watch or
just the movies in 2020.
Oh yeah.
It's up there. It's probably going to stay up there. And
I
liked the third one.
Yeah.
It was a fun rewatch.
Yeah. I think
crazy window into culture.
I think depending on how many movies I actually end up seeing from 2020, it'll probably be maybe an honorable mention. Just the fact that it fits the 2020 quarantine scene so well. I don't know how well it'll age, but I definitely think it's really fun. You know, if you ever want to just do a silly marathon or something, these are great movies to throw on during quarantine. You could totally binge these really easily, you know, eating some chips or doing work. Like they're very easy to consume, you know, passively. They're not very hard to like think about. It's very silly. Let us do the thinking. That's our job.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
But yeah, I agree with you on that. I think this is definitely like an honorable mention for sure, just because of how fitting it is, especially for the current year. But yeah, go watch Face the Music on rental, or I don't know. Why are we plugging this?
Wherever you get movies from in 2020, or whatever year you're listening to this in.
Yes. Yeah. All that to say, I think, I don't know, what do we want to say? Let me pull up the schedule real quick of what we might be doing next.
Just in case you want to know what's happening next.
Yes. Hang on.
Excellent!
Yeah, we had to do it one more time. We haven't beat it completely.
We hit the quota.
Yes.
Above 5.
Okay. So the next, as of right now, if nothing changes, October 9th will be our next Franchise Frenzy episode. We're doing kind of a weird format where we're going to do probably one Franchise Frenzy a month-ish, maybe more. It's kind of weird to say.
Can we say what it's going to be?
Yeah, we can say what the next one is going to be. So we have started it. We're definitely planning on doing this one. Is the movie adaptation of the video game series Resident Evil. Resident Evil, if you played the game, so you know that. Which, for the most part, has nothing to do with the actual video games. We have gotten 2 movies in so far.
It's been a crazy
I'm very excited.
It's gonna get more intense as we go, and
this is the first movie series I've chosen to be a bad movie series that has continually gotten worse and continually not even connected to its original source material.
There's going to be so many threads for this one.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
so the next one is going to be Resident Evil. We'll probably do it on October 9th is the current plan, if all else goes. And then we have some things to look forward to potentially this semester. So between now and the late December, we'll have a Don Quixote, which is a personal choice, which will be in the new format. We have the Dark Knight trilogy, Christopher Nolan trilogy, and we're going to cover my all-time favorite movie and what its movie series, Tron Legacy. So those are some things that you can look forward to, as well as some new format episodes, which we'll probably be doing every couple of weeks, where we will just kind of chat about a thing we watched. Duncan and I, and maybe some other special guests, as well as we will have special guests throughout the semester. It won't just be Duncan and I back and forth.
And then we'll have some Twitch streams.
Yes.
We'll have some 2casts.
We'll have some 2casts.
And at some point, we're going to do our own 2casts about content and entertainment. So
correct. So
stay tuned for all of that.
Stay tuned for that. Spring semester is still up in the air. We don't know what it's going to be quite yet. We're debating on a couple of things. It's really dependent on maybe a few release dates. We'll see. But yes, the fall is mostly set in stone for the most part, because these are all, for the most part, concluded series. The only one that's not really concluded is Tron, because news just came out that Jared Leto leaked on Twitter that Tron 3 is going to happen.
Ooh.
Tron 3 is going to happen, and Jared Leto is going to be in it in some major capacity. Right. So, Tron, I'm very excited about doing. Anyways, that is about it. Be excellent to each other. people. What is it? Be true. What's the whole line? Do you know?
Be excellent.
Is it just be excellent
Be
to each other?
excellent.
But there's something before that, isn't there?
Just be excellent.
All right. Be excellent to each other, audience, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.